Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the new stories we share. Let's begin. The morning light through stained glass painted everything in shades of crimson and gold. I was sitting in the third pew from the back at St. Michael's, same spot I'd occupied every Sunday for the past 15 years. The service hadn't started yet. I always arrived early because the silence helped me breathe in ways my corner office never could. My name is Catherine Mercer. I run a pharmaceutical company with 3,000 employees. I make decisions that affect millions of lives. But in that church, I was just a woman trying to remember who she used to be before the world taught her to be someone else. The front doors creaked open behind me. I didn't turn around. People filtered in and out all morning. But then I heard it. A small sound, not quite crying, not quite cooing. Something in between that made my chest tighten in a way I hadn't felt in decades. When I finally looked back, the pew 4 rows behind me held a tiny figure. A toddler, maybe 2 years old. She was sitting alone, her small legs dangling off the edge of the wooden seat, her hands clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. I waited for a parent to appear, counted to 30 in my head, then 60. The child made that sound again, and something inside me cracked. I stood and walked toward her slowly, the way you approach a frightened animal. Her eyes found mine. They were green, familiar in a way that made no sense. "Hey there, sweetheart, where's your mommy?" She just stared at me. Her lower lip trembled, but she didn't cry. She was too young to answer properly, but old enough to know something was wrong. That's the cruelest age, when you can sense abandonment but can't understand it. I sat down next to her and noticed her jacket. Pink with small embroidered flowers. Something was poking out of the inside pocket, a photograph bent at the corners. I pulled it out carefully, and the world stopped making sense. The photo showed a woman holding this exact child. The woman had dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her smile was tired but genuine, and I knew that smile because I grew up with it. It was my sister, Meredith, my estranged sister who I hadn't spoken to in 11 years. My estranged sister who I'd told to never contact me again after what she did. My estranged sister who was apparently connected to this abandoned child sitting inches away from me. I turned the photo over. On the back in handwriting I recognized from 1,000 childhood notes passed under bedroom doors were 3 words: "Please help her." The church suddenly felt too small. The stained glass too bright. This child, this toddler with green eyes like mine, like our mother's, was somehow my responsibility now. "What's your name, honey?" She hugged her rabbit tighter. Emmy, short for something. Emily, Emma, Emerson, did it matter? What mattered was that my sister, wherever she was, had left this child here knowing I would find her. Knowing I came to this church every single Sunday without fail. She'd been watching me, planning this, and I didn't know whether to feel violated or heartbroken. I called the police first because that's what you're supposed to do when you find an abandoned child. They arrived within 20 minutes. 2 officers, a man and a woman, both younger than me by at least a decade. They asked questions I couldn't fully answer. "Do you know this child?" "I think she might be my niece, but I'm not certain." "You think?" "My sister and I haven't spoken in over a decade. I didn't know she had a daughter." The female officer studied me with eyes that had seen too much. "And you found her here just sitting alone?" "Yes, with this photograph in her jacket pocket." They took the photo, documented everything, called Child Protective Services. The process felt clinical in a way that made my stomach turn. Emmy sat in my lap the entire time, her small fingers wrapped around my index finger like it was the only safe thing left in the world. I should have let them take her. Let the system do what systems do. I had board meetings and quarterly reports, and a life that didn't include small children with stuffed rabbits and my sister's eyes. But when the social worker arrived and reached for Emmy, the child screamed. Not cried, screamed. A sound that reached into my chest and grabbed hold of something I thought had died long ago. "I'll take temporary custody," I heard myself say, "until we locate her mother." The social worker hesitated. "Ma'am, there's a process." "I'm aware of processes. I run a company worth $2 billion. I have resources, background checks, whatever you need. But this child knows me somehow, and I'm not letting her spend tonight in a stranger's house." It took hours, phone calls, emergency home visits, documents signed in triplicate. By evening, Emmy was asleep in my guest bedroom, her rabbit tucked under her chin, her breathing soft and even. I sat in the hallway outside her door and let myself remember Meredith. She was 3 years younger than me, wild in all the ways I was cautious. She laughed too loud and loved too hard and burned through life like she was afraid it would run out before she'd lived it all. I admired her for that once, before she betrayed me in the worst way possible. 11 years ago, Meredith had an affair with my husband. She didn't just sleep with him once. She loved him, for months. While I worked 18-hour days building my career, my sister was in my bed with my husband, and neither of them thought I deserved the truth. I found out the way everyone finds out, by accident. A text message meant for her that came to me instead. 4 words that ended 3 lives as we knew them. I miss your body. The divorce was brutal. I kept the company, he kept his shame. But Meredith kept calling, kept writing letters, kept showing up at my office until security knew her face better than they knew mine. Eventually, she stopped. I assumed she'd moved on, built a life somewhere else. Had a daughter, apparently, and now that daughter was sleeping 10 feet away from me, and I had no idea why. 3 days passed before I got my first real answer. A detective named Marcus Webb called my office. "Miss Mercer, we've located your sister." I gripped the phone tighter. "Where is she?" "County Hospital. She was admitted 6 days ago. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She's been in and out of consciousness." The words didn't register at first. Cancer, stage 4. My sister was dying. We believe she left the child at the church before her condition worsened. Based on our timeline, she had maybe 48 hours of mobility left when she made that decision. I thanked him mechanically, wrote down the hospital address, hung up and stared at the wall of my office for what felt like hours but was probably minutes. Meredith was dying. The sister I'd cut out of my life like a tumor was now being consumed by one. The irony felt too cruel to be accidental. I went to the hospital that afternoon. Left Emmy with my assistant, Maria, who had raised 4 children of her own and handled the toddler with more grace than I ever could. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and endings. I found Meredith's room on the 4th floor. Oncology. The word itself sounded like a death sentence. She was smaller than I remembered. The disease had stolen the curves I'd envied as a teenager, the wild hair I'd secretly wished was mine. Her skin was gray. Her eyes were closed. Machines beeped in rhythms that counted down to something inevitable. I sat in the chair beside her bed and watched her breathe. In and out. In and out. The sister who had shattered my marriage. The sister who had loved the man who promised to love only me. "I know you're awake," I said quietly. Your breathing changed when I walked in. She opened her eyes slowly, green like Emmy's, like mine, like our mother's. "Cat," her voice was barely a whisper. "You came. Did I have a choice? You left your daughter in my church." "I left her with the only person I trusted to save her. You don't get to trust me, not after what you did." She tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. I know you hate me, but Emmy doesn't deserve to pay for my sins." I wanted to argue, to throw 11 years of pain at her and watch it land, but looking at her now, at this skeleton wearing my sister's face, I couldn't find the cruelty I'd cultivated so carefully. "Who's her father?" Meredith's eyes flickered. Shame, guilt, something else I couldn't name. "It doesn't matter." "Of course it matters. He's not in the picture, never was." She was lying. I knew her tells the way I knew my own heartbeat, but I didn't push. Not yet. "What do you want from me, Meredith?" "Really?" A tear slid down her hollow cheek. "I want you to raise her. I want you to love her the way I never got to love you after everything fell apart. I want you to be her mother." The request hit me like a physical blow. Mother. I'd never been a mother, never wanted to be. My husband and I had discussed children once early in our marriage, and I'd said no. My career was my child. My company was my legacy. And now my dying sister was asking me to raise hers. I visited Meredith every day for the next 2 weeks. Each time I walked through those hospital doors, I told myself it would be the last, that I'd gotten whatever answers I needed, that I could walk away clean, but Emmy kept asking about Mama. And every time those green eyes looked up at me, I saw my sister, saw myself, saw the family we destroyed with our pride and pain. On the 9th day, Meredith told me the truth about Emmy's father. It was him. She could barely speak above a whisper. David, my ex-husband, the man we'd both loved, the man who destroyed us both. "Emmy is David's daughter," she nodded weakly. "I didn't know I was pregnant until after you divorced him, after he left me too. He wanted nothing to do with either of us." I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. The sound was too loud in that quiet room. "You're telling me that child, that little girl I've been caring for, is my ex-husband's daughter? She's also your niece, and she's innocent." I paced the room like a caged animal. Every step was a heartbeat. Every heartbeat was a memory. David's hands on my back, David's lies in my ear, David's betrayal in my sister's arms. "I can't do this." "Cat, please." "No," I turned to face her. "You don't get to ask this of me. You took everything, my marriage, my trust, my family, and now you want me to raise the evidence of your betrayal, wake up every day and see his face in hers." Meredith started crying, real sobs that shook her fragile body. Machines beeped faster. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I was young and stupid and I thought he loved me, but he didn't. He didn't love either of us. He only loved himself." I stopped pacing. Something in her voice cut through my anger. "What do you mean?" "After you divorced him, he came to me, said we could start over, be together properly. I believed him for almost a year, then I got pregnant and he vanished, just disappeared. I never saw him again." She coughed, blood on her lips. "I raised Emmy alone for 2 years, worked 3 jobs, never asked anyone for help because I was too ashamed. And when I got sick, when I knew I was running out of time, I thought about everyone in my life who might care for her, every friend, every acquaintance, everyone. She looked at me with those dying eyes. And the only person I trusted, the only person I knew would protect her no matter what, was the sister I'd wronged more than anyone. Because you're good, Kat. Under all that armor, you're good. You always have been. Sat back down. My legs couldn't hold me anymore. I don't know how to be a mother. Neither did I. You learn, you fail, you try again. That's all parenting is. I took her hand. It felt like paper and bones. I don't know if I can forgive you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for Emmy. Meredith died on a Tuesday. The autumn sun was streaming through her hospital window, and I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. It was quiet, peaceful, even nothing like the chaos she'd lived. I didn't cry at her funeral, not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt too much to let any of it escape. The grief mixed with anger, mixed with love, mixed with regret until it became something I couldn't name. Emmy didn't understand death. She asked for Mama every night for 3 weeks straight. I held her through the screaming, through the confusion, through the moments when she looked at me like I was a stranger who'd stolen her world. Eventually, the questions slowed. The screaming stopped. And one morning she crawled into my lap without being asked and said, "Kat, read story." It wasn't Mama. It wasn't forgiveness or healing or any of the clean endings we pretend exist. But it was something, a beginning maybe. I sold my shares in the company 6 months later, stepped down as CEO. The board thought I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had, but I'd found something else in return. I found Emmy. I found morning cartoons and bedtime stories and small hands sticky with grape jelly reaching for mine. I found patience I didn't know I possessed and tenderness I'd buried so deep I thought it was dead. I found forgiveness too, not all at once, not completely, but in pieces like a puzzle slowly assembling itself. I forgave Meredith for loving the wrong man. I forgave David for being incapable of loving anyone. I forgave myself for the years I wasted on anger instead of understanding. Emmy is 5 now. She has her mother's laugh and her father's stubborn chin and my mother's green eyes. She calls me Mom sometimes, Kat other times. It doesn't matter what name she uses. What matters is that she knows she's loved. I keep the photograph Meredith left in Emmy's jacket. It sits on my bedside table where I can see it every morning. A reminder of what was lost and what was found. A reminder that family isn't just blood, it's choice. It's showing up when it's hard, it's loving someone else's child as your own. I visit Meredith's grave on Sundays after church. I tell her about Emmy's drawings, her first day of school, the way she laughs at everything and nothing. I tell her I understand now, how love makes you foolish, how regret makes you brave, how sometimes the worst thing you've ever done leads to the best thing that could ever happen. Emmy places flowers on the headstone and says goodbye to the mama she barely remembers. And I hold her hand and promise silently that I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she knows she was wanted. Chosen, loved. That's the truth Meredith gave me in the end. Not just a child, but a purpose. Not just responsibility, but redemption. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.